The after effects of the previous roundtable are felt as the Battle of the Traitors takes a turn and one faithful sets her sights on banishing a traitor. The first order of business was for the traitors to choose their latest victim. For the latest murder, Bradley suggested Hannah, Jill suggested Elliot, while Keanu suggested Maria. What the traitors didn't know was that Maria had a shield. It wasn't even shown if the possibility of shields being found was even a factor in their discussions. Then again, it wasn't even a topic of conversation during the previous episode after the mission. It was almost like it never even happened. It made me question if Maria was one of the players found by Michael, the player formerly known as the masked figure. Was it ever discussed in both situations, or was this an editing choice? Anyway, it's the first time Samantha hasn't been one of the 3 names on the shortlist for murder. Yay for Samantha, because she is a big asset for the Faithfuls. Unfortunately unknown to her, Samantha is also a big asset for Keanu. Samantha could very well end up being a very pivotal player, and in this episode we see a big reason why. I'm struggling to be convinced by the traitors' choice for their latest murder. I don't think Elliot was as dangerous as people thought he was, and other players could have easily circled back to him for banishment. People parroting data points wasn't enough for me. I would have put that into the bucket labelled "let's wait and see" for at least another day. The move neither pins it on anybody or moves the needle in any way. Again, maybe I'm missing some context, but I just don't feel the editing is doing any favours in really understanding the last 2 victims. The next day saw all 3 traitors making moves, and I guess now was the time for Keanu to start going after Bradley. Talking to a sizable group outside, Keanu used the angle that there's too many teachers in the game for one not to be a traitor, also stating that none of them have been banished or killed. Aaron, Chloe, Harrison, Marua, Samantha and Violet were amongst the group. We already knew that Aaron and Samantha had their suspicions of Bradley, and this showed that they weren't the only ones that were agreeable with the assessment of Bradley's role in the game. Marua and Samantha should have been hoping that Keanu's teacher theory wasn't used against them, seeing as they're also teachers. Jill started the ball rolling on her new plan of getting into the game by telling James she thinks Hannah is a traitor. Why she thinks that only speaking to one person about suspicions will help is lost on me. James might not necessarily mention it to anyone. I still don't get how someone who claimed to know the game inside and out thought she could just coast her way through. Playing dumb and not giving any input is not the way to attempt to look faithful. It feels like a season 1 kind of move instead of something you would do in season 3 having watched the show. Not to be left out, Bradley decided to enact Operation Get Jill Banished by going around several people and throwing Jill's name out. Comparing all 3 plans of the traitors, Keanu's was the one that had the most legs. He was shown to take a small number and be a bit more subtle in his approach. By only saying things once to the group he spoke to, Keanu could plant the seed in starting the conversation and then didn't need to do anything else until the roundtable, though he did repeat it later in the car. In my opinion, Jill's plan is dead on arrival. She would only get a reprieve if the Faithfuls go after Bradley first. Only telling James about her fake suspicions of Hannah goes nowhere if James keeps it to himself. Her plan is now out of her control unless she's proactive and does something else. With Bradley, it actually seems more scattered because he's going from person to person and group to group. It actually screams more of desperation, though he doesn't know he should be in desperation mode. If those he went to started to talk to each other, they would quickly clock his plan and start to question it. As we later see, Bradley's plan didn't have the instant impact he needed it to have. The players had to split into 3 teams as they found themselves in stables trying to find a traitor stamp in 3 different rooms. They had 7 minutes to find the stamps, where each stamp found would add $3,000 to the prize pot. Only one of the stamps was the genuine Traitor's seal stamp, and if it was found, there would be no murder that evening. The traitors knew where the stamps were actually hidden, so how much effort were the traitors going to give to the search? The way the groups ended up being divided meant that Keanu was on Team 1 and both Bradley and Jill were on Team 2. Team 1 didn't have any luck finding a stamp. Aurora from Team 2 found something that Dave seemed confident was the correct traitor seal. Though it was a stamp to win $3,000, it wasn't the one to prevent the murder. In the dying seconds, Aaron from Team 3 found the traitor seal and it happened to be the correct one. That meant there was no murder and they banked $6,000 out of $9,000 for the prize pot. Chloe questioned Aurora for finding the stamp quickly, while Aurora was questioning Dave's certainty with the traitor seal. James seemed very dismissive of what Aurora was saying about Dave. Even though we know that Dave and James aren't traitors, why was James so eager to play interference? Did he just believe it was a waste of time? Will any of the other faithfuls later wonder why James was like that? Aurora had actually started things off by talking about Debbie's randomness in her votes. Debbie continued that randomness and once again went for a different person without even being shown even talking about them. This time, Debbie voted for Chloe. During her one-on-one conversation with Harrison, you could see how tired Debbie is. This made me wonder if she's still mentally in this game. Was she ever in this game, or is she just in a game for Harrison? At this point, it wouldn't surprise me if she walked away from the game. I don't think Debbie is doing herself any favours, and if she doesn't walk, I wouldn't be surprised if she was banished. Unlike the previous night, this time Samantha had the confidence to bring up Bradley. I was waiting for Samantha to bring up the conversation that Rachel had with Bradley on night 1, but she didn't. Bradley brought up Jill and Keanu, which then seemed to get Keanu to weigh in against Bradley. During the mission, I was wondering about Bradley's ill-timed movement with his hands when Madeline was talking about the traitors, and it was noticed by Aaron. Even the smallest bit of evidence was stacking up against Bradley. Any effort that Bradley made to get Jill banished ended up being in vain, as Bradley received 9 votes, while Jill's only vote was cast by Bradley himself. I don't know if he would have necessarily survived, but Bradley walking around the manor putting Jill's name on blast wouldn't have necessarily done Bradley any favours. If I was in the manor, it would look super suspicious to me because he practically said it to everyone in the game. The edit made it look like it was his one and only mission of the day. She might have had help from the traitors, but Samantha got to the conclusion about Bradley by herself, just like Aaron did. They both saw through Bradley's act. As I said earlier, Samantha will be pivotal in the game. We saw in the previous roundtable how she got the others thinking about Jill, and Samantha may circle back to that, but with the aim of banishing Jill. A couple of the faithfuls have noted the breadcrumbs Bradley left, and it doesn't spell good news for Jill. If she doesn't pull a rabbit out of the hat, then she'll be looking likely to be the next banished player. Jill has to be careful and not pull the same tactic Bradley did by running around different groups saying a name, but she can't sit on that one conversation she had with James about Hannah. This might end up being a lost cause for Jill, but something needs to happen or she'll be gone. Will Jill survive the next round table, or will the faithfuls banish another traitor? Until next time.